How's it going, everybody? I'm the BTC Reaper. My goal on this channel is to teach you how to read the rewards of trading when the price is going up or down. He kept lying. Prosecutors unload on Sam Bankman-Fried as defense tries to shift blame. Sam Bankman-Fried stole billions of dollars in cash and crypto from thousands of people and lied constantly to do so, prosecutors allege today. In opening statements Wednesday morning at Bankman-Fried's trial, Assistant U.S. Attorney Thane Wren told jurors that the ex-FTX CEO knew his company couldn't keep customer money safe. He also alleged that Bankman-Fried's company was built on lies and that his close business partners knew what he was up to and that he spent others' people's money for himself. Prosecutors allege that Bankman-Fried commingled customer funds to make risky bets on Alameda Research and plundered the crypto company. But Bankman-Fried's defense lawyer Mark Cohen today said that Bankman acted in good faith and took reasonable business measures. I don't see how. Cohen said that Sam Bankman-Fried was a math nerd who did not steal, rather loaned FTX cash to Alameda, the crypto exchange's sister trading firm. Either way, he did it without anyone knowing. He added that Binance, the world's biggest crypto exchange, said they were going to quit holding the FTT token, and that caused a liquidity crisis. So because another exchange didn't invest in his exchange, he went under, he's saying. It's not his fault, it's another exchange's fault. His exchange went under. Ex-BlackRock director says SEC will approve a Bitcoin ETF in 3 to 6 months. Schoenfield gave his estimate during the panel's discussion on ETFs at CC Data's Digital Asset Summit in London yesterday, where he was joined by another ex-BlackRock director, Martin Bernal, now CEO of Jacoby Asset Management. He is responding to comments made earlier by Bernal that the SEC would probably approve all ETF applications at the same time, and they don't think that they would want to give anyone a first mover advantage. Instead of completely rejecting the whole list, they've asked for comments, which is a marginal but significant improvement in the dialogue, he says. There's also the Grayscale lawsuit, which the SEC lost, which means they're most likely going to have to allow the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust to be converted into an ETF. So their language is changing a little bit, so hopefully this is indicative of some actual regulation going forward. Over on our Dixie, we are getting a little bit of a drop, nothing too drastic yet. Stochastic's pushing up, RSI is pretty flat. Our money flow is running down, so I would keep an eye on that. That is a little concerning. We have a bit of a symmetrical triangle here. That could be a bear pendant. Bear pendants break you down, and well, they most often break you down because they are made of a symmetrical triangle. They do have a bit of a 50-50 chance. A 50-50 chance to the upside would be half of your move of your triangle, which I drew a little sloppy there. But that could push us around the top where we had. We are pretty close to a breakout. If this is going to be a tight triangle, we could see it push down to around 106.246. So we could get a little bit of a drop, nothing too drastic. That's about 30 cents. Stochastic's running up. RSI is pretty flat. Money flow is coming out. That VWAP's overall trending out. And the momentum does want to kind of round away. He is trying to push forward, but with the way the VWAP's looking, it could round away very easily if that VWAP crosses under. Over on our total, we are trying to push forward. We are on the 1 hour. Meant to be on the daily. Here, we'll jump on the daily on the Dixie. That's a little more fair. But that 1 hour pattern could be something short term that could end up making this be a rounding top. So that's why it's a good example to look at lower time frames once in a while, because you can see patterns that could help with a bigger pattern. If you're not familiar with a rounding top, smash that like, join us in the Discord. We have some resources that can help you. You have some questions, we have some members that'll help you as well as myself. RSI is heading out, momentum's coming down. We have double red dot. RSI has a red dot. Stochastic looks like it wants to roll away. Our money flow is pushing up, but the VWAP's coming down and wants to break the neutral. So if that 1 hour breaks to the bearish side, we're likely going to fall through this neutral and see more bearish action, at which point we could test the support zone. Over on the total, We did try to push our resistance, we didn't manage to break it, but we are weakening it. But the same could be said about our support. We're kind of just ranging around. We are in a slight uptrend, but nothing great. Stochastic is pushing out, RSI is pretty flat. Our momentum is rounding away with a red dot as our VWAP has fallen into the bearish territory. Our money flow is pushing away from that neutral, so our trend is going more bearish than bullish. So if this money flow continues out and the VWAP continues out, our altcoins could see continued sell-off from here. Over on Bitcoin dominance, we're trying to get a little bit of a freak breakout. We'll have to see if that can actually sustain itself, or if it ends up, could actually have a ascending triangle here too. The ascending triangle would have about the same breakout point. Move it to right about there. That could actually pump our dominance up around that higher zone. If we zoom out real quick, get our Fibonacci, we don't really have anything below us. We'd have to draw a volume profile for this range, but I'm not going to bother too much on the dominance. Our stochastic is running up, RSI is coming out. We have a red dot that wants to bring the RSI lower, and that stochastic looks like it could start to bend, so I would keep an eye on it. We are making bearish divergences still that could end up playing out and bringing us down rather than up. Our momentum is pushing higher, but we're getting bearish divergence there too as well. Our VWAP is rolling over. Our money flow is trying to recover, so if our money flow can sustain bullish action and break above this 4 or 5 zone, then we could get a decent push up and away from this zone. However, if we reject this 4 or 5 zone and the VWAP continues to come down, it is likely we will trend out and start to fall away with our Bitcoin dominance. Over on our futures, we are trying to keep going forward. We do have a little bit of a gap under us, so that could end up rolling us under. This could be a bit of a freak breakout, or this could be a bit of an extension. We're going to have to kind of watch. I am not betting too much on it being a freak breakout yet. With this gap, we could end up filling that gap, pulling back, and then filling our lower gap. If you don't remember Anchor or didn't watch Anchor over the last few weeks, we had plenty of gaps that filled. We got major gaps that filled, and there were some decent moves that could have been made using those gaps. We have this higher gap from a previous zone way back here, and we have a lower gap from a previous zone way back in here. So we do have those previous trends. If we zoom out, we'll get our volume profile. We are near the value area high of our volume profile for our Bitcoin futures. We did try to wick through. We weren't able to hold above it, and we are somewhat getting a bit of a rejection. So if we're not able to come back up, break through this 28.8 level and hold, then we could just end up rejecting away and seeing this lower gap fill before that higher gap fills. Our stochastic has a bearish divergence and wants to drop down. We are overall rounding out. RSI is overall pushing away. Our momentum is rounding away, and our VWAP is trying to push through that neutral, so I would keep a close eye on it. If that VWAP breaks through that neutral with this money flow being in the bearish territory, we could set up a leg to the downside that could break us down finally. And that would be probably a fill to that 20k gap, which would be ultimately the best move we could make, because then we wouldn't have any gaps to the downside to worry about, and we could continue on about moving forward, no problem. Over on Bitcoin itself, we are trying to push our point control. We are stopping just shy of it. We're trying to make a bottoming pattern. We are breaking out of our little flag we had on the lower time frame. That seems to be a bit of a trend we have going on lately. Going to delete that one. We're going to leave this one for now. Our stochastic skin bearish divergences. Momentum is starting to round out. Our RSI is overall trending up, and our VWAP is testing that neutral, so I would keep a close eye on it. Even though we're pushing up, if that VWAP falls to the bearish territory and that money flow maintains bearish strength, we will see a trend away from here, and this could just be a freak breakout. If I can find my mouse there. Over on the 4 hour, we have a manipulation X that didn't really bring us too far down. We got a little bit of a dip out of this zone, and we ultimately managed to break away from it. Our RSI is heading up, stochastic is pushing up. This was a possibility from the morning, but we are starting to push away from that possibility. So I am going to delete this possibility. If you're wondering what I mean by a possibility from this morning, you need to get in that Discord. Our stochastic is running up, RSI is pushing up, money flow is running up, and the VWAP is pushing off that neutral. Our momentum wants to trend to the bullish territory as well, so we do have some potential to gain some bullish strength here. Real quick, if you haven't already, smash that like and hit the subscribe, and then join that Discord link in that description. Our stochastic is starting to round away, RSI is pushing up, our momentum is pushing up, our VWAP's getting lower highs and starting to come back down, so I would keep a close eye on this. If that VWAP breaks to the bearish territory and the money flow starts to trend away, we could get a break to the downside. Over on the 1 hour, our stochastic is starting to round away. We do want to make a bearish cross here, so if we do make that bearish cross, we could start to see the RSI start to fall away. Our momentum is starting to taper off as our VWAP is getting close to that neutral and could break through the bearish side. So if that VWAP breaks to the bearish territory, that momentum's likely going to start to sell to the bearish side, and we could see our money flow start to come out as more people would be selling rather than buying. Over on graph for the daily, we are starting to kind of round away here. This could be a bit of a double top. So like I warned you about, if we don't break down from here, we could invalidate this, range away, but this could be some sort of a flag. Kind of respected that resistance, that's why I left it. So that flag possibility would be somewhat like this. Let's see, these are more solid supports here. And this flag would push us down to around that 6.5 zone. Our stochastic is overall pushing out with a bearish divergence. Our RSI is losing strength, momentum is pushing off with a red dot, and our money flow is starting to trend away. The VWAP has fallen into the bearish territory, so I would keep a close eye on that. Over on the 4 hour, you can see we did make a bounce off of this zone. We have several bounces here. That is why I chose this zone, because there are more bounces over in this trend zone than lower trend zones like here. That is why I chose to draw my line where I drew my line, just in case you were curious. RSI is trying to head up, but it's overall trending out. Stochastic does want to ramp up. We'll have to see if it can break through that 30 and give this RSI some bullish strength. That VWAP and money flow want to cross to the bullish side, so if these lower time frames maintain bullish strength, we could get pushed to the upside, as we are kind of locked in a downtrend, and downtrends are bullish patterns. Our momentum does have a green dot, so we could be in for another swing to the upside. Over on the 2 hour, our stochastic looks like it's starting to kind of taper off, so our RSI could start to lose some strength in the next several candles. Our money flow does want to push up, and our VWAP is continuing up, so we do have a bit of a bullish trend going with those two things. Our momentum is getting a bullish divergence and pushing up pretty decently, as that VWAP is trending bullish. If the VWAP does not reject around the 7-8 zone, then we could see continual price action to the upside. However, if we start to see the VWAP start to curl out, the money flow could be in for a bit of a correction, as our momentum would start to become more bearish. Over on the 1 hour, we do have a possible symmetrical triangle here. Was gonna say up triangle, but we don't really have an ascending triangle unless we come up and make a consistent high over here. Then we'd have a bit of an ascending triangle possibility. Our stochastic does want to run up. RSI is starting to go pretty flat though, so that is concerning for the RSI. It could start to push under. Our VWAP is starting to roll away, so our momentum could start to push under. You do see it was coming up pretty strong, but it's starting to taper off. Our money flow is in the bullish territory, pushing decent, but it looks like it's starting to roll away, so I would keep a close eye on it. If we reject around this 4.8 zone, where we have rejected before, we could end up seeing a bit of a downtrend. Over on Anchor for the daily, we are trying to push out of this flag, so I would watch out for that. This could be a hammer candle though. If we get a green candle, that's about the same size as this red candle. If you're not familiar with that kind of a rounding bottom, smash that like and join us in that Discord. We have resources that'll help you get familiar. Our stochastic has bearish divergences, RSI is coming out, momentum is rolling away, our money flow is getting close to that neutral, so if it breaks bearish, we could see a bit of a sell-off here. Now VWAP is pushing in the bearish territory pretty decently. We're getting lower highs with lower lows, so we have started a bearish trend. We are in a bit of an ascending channel here, so we could end up getting a breakdown from that. This could be indicative of that starting. Our stochastic starting to push down with that bearish cross, momentum starting to sell off with the red dot, and the VWAP is falling pretty strong. Watch if the money flow breaks bearish. If that money flow breaks bearish, we'll likely see continued price action down and break this support zone. Over on the 4 hour, you can see we have a decent push up. We have a gap, just like Anchor loves to do. So we could end up getting a rejection and filling that gap. We did come down and probably fill one of those lower gaps, but we could end up filling the other ones. We'll cover those on the 1 hour. RSI is heading up, stochastic's running up, our VWAP is in the bullish territory with that money flow trying to cross bullish as well. If these lower time frames maintain bullish momentum, we could get pushed to the upside and possibly fill some higher levels, but we do have those lower pressure points on us, so keep that in mind. Over on the 2 hour, you can see we're pushing up pretty decent. Don't have quite a gap here like we do on the 4 hour. That gap being on a higher time frame means it's more likely to play out. Patterns on higher time frames usually carry more weight than patterns on lower time frames. Our stochastic is starting to roll away. RSI is trying to push up. Our money flow is overall rounding out, but trying to bounce off this neutral, so that is good for the bulls. If that can sustain, we could see continued price action forward, but we would need to break this resistance to see any continual highs or newer highs for local price action. Our VWAP is trying to push up. We are kind of meeting some resistance around this 14-15 zone, where we have met resistance several times. Keep an eye on that, as that means we are likely to pull back at some point and we could test this support. If we do test this support and break through, we are likely going to continue to the downside and see that higher time frame pattern of that ascending channel drop us lower. However, if we manage to push forward, then we could try to break this pattern and invalidate that move. Over on the 1 hour, we have a reversal arrow here that wants to bring us down as we were rising, so that the counter of that would be to drop. Our VWAP is starting to round away. Money flow is trying to push forward with the momentum, but with that VWAP rolling away, that momentum is starting to curl off. So if that VWAP breaks bearish, we could see the momentum start to drag to the bearish side, which would weaken our money flow. Our stochastic wants to make a bearish cross and start to push down here, which could drag our RSI lower. So I would keep an eye on that. So several indicators are pointing to the downside. We have a gap right here around that 1907. We're right around that 1921. Let's see, for the daily, did we fill our 2? No, we did not fill a 2 cent. So we do still have this higher gap that we could come up and fill. We do still have that possibility, but don't forget about the gap way back here at that 1830 level. It is likely we could come back, fill this lower gap, and then fill the higher gap as a correction move. So keep that in mind. Over on XRP for the daily, we are starting to reject our resistance, so I would watch out. We do have a green candle though, or a green dot on our candle, sorry, that wants to push us forward. If we get a green candle after this red candle, that could be indicative of a push forward. However, this is a hammer candle that could end up breaking us down. If we get a big red candle here, that would be a bit of a topping pattern. Stochastic is starting to push out, RSI is pushing out, and the momentum is starting to get a bit of a sell-off. The VWAP's overall in a bit of a bearish trend that could confirm if we break through that neutral. The money flow is pretty flat. It is overall in an ascending channel as we are getting higher highs with higher lows. So it does want to push forward, but the VWAP's kind of moving counter to it. So I would watch the lower time frames. Over on the 4 hour, this could be a bit of a ascending or descending wedge that would want to make us rise and try and test our resistance again. Our stochastic is trying to curl up. Our RSI wants to curl up. Our VWAP's overall pushing out though and getting close to that neutral, so watch if it can maintain a curl. If it doesn't curl here, we're likely going to start to the bearish side, at which point we could start some sort of bearish trend. Our money flow is in a spot where it's not sure where it wants to land. It's getting some strength to the bullish side, then some strength to the bearish side, and it keeps getting whipsawed around. I would watch for it to actually establish some sort of trend either above this 4 or below this 6. If we get some movement below those, around those zones, then we could see where our trend would start to move us. Over on the 2 hour, our stochastic starting to push out. RSI is overall trending away. Our momentum is rounding away from a bearish divergence. Our money flow is overall coming out, but trying to bounce off that neutral. And our VWAP is trying to push bullish, but is struggling to cross through. So if we start to round away here, we could continue a bearish trend, and we could see lower price action as a result. Over on the 1 hour, stochastic wants to push forward, but it's starting to kind of taper off, so I would keep a close eye on that as we could see it roll away and make a bearish cross. Our momentum's overall pushing away, making bearish divergences as our price remains pretty flat. We do have a bull flag here that would try to push us forward, but with the bearish divergences that could get invalidated. Our money flow is struggling to break above this 5.6 zone, so if we can't break above this zone and hold with the money flow, with our VWAP maintaining bullish momentum, then it's likely we're going to reject away and see lower price action. Over on Algo for the daily, we are breaking through the value area low and our resistance. So if we continue this price action, we could see lower price targets and we could see this flag play out. Stochastic is starting to head down, RSI is starting to trend out, the momentum has bearish divergences, we have a red dot on our momentum, and our VWAP is pushing lower. The money flow is in a bullish trend, but is starting to round away, so I would keep a close eye on the lower time frames. As they continue bearish strength, this money flow could be in jeopardy of breaking bearish. Over on the 4 hour, you can see we're trying to make a rounding bottom here. Again, if you're not familiar with these rounding bottoms, smash that like button and join us in the Discord. Money flow is trying to push forward. We did bounce off of a -11, -9 zone that we have bounced off before. So if we can break through this -5, -4 zone, then we could get some bullish strength to the upside. However, if we start to flatten out here, we could end up seeing a pullback just like last time. Stochastic is trying to get a bullish cross and our VWAP is trying to push forward. So those are in our favor, unlike the last time. Momentum does have a green dot, so I would watch for the money flow to try and continue forward from here. Over on the 2 hour, we have a bit of an ascending triangle here that could try to break us through this resistance and around this 10-cent zone. Our stochastic is trying to push forward, RSI is trying to push forward, our VWAP's getting higher highs and pushing forward, and our money flow wants to push to the bullish side. If the money flow can manage to break through this like 3 zone and hold, then we could see continued price action up. However, if we don't manage to break through this zone and we start to pull back, it is very likely we could see continued downside. Our momentum does want to push forward with a bullish divergence, so we do have some strength going for us, but we also have other things that look a little dicey. Now, stochastic does want to push forward on the 1 hour. RSI is trying to push forward, but does have a red dot that wants to bring it down, so I would keep an eye on that. Our VWAP is overall meeting a new high as of recent price history at around this 20 and starting to flatten out, so I would watch out and watch if it starts to reject. The last time we were over here was at 26. We got high and that started this dump that gave us the price that targets we're at right now. Our money flow is trying to push forward, but it looks like it's starting to round, so I would keep a close eye on the next few candles. If we manage to break above this zone where we are right now, just under 10 cents, then we could see possible bullish action up. However, if we reject and break below this like 9-8 zone, then we could see continued price action to the downside. Over for Doge, we have a bit of our bear flag here, so that could end up pushing us down and continuing this breakdown of our symmetrical triangle. Stochastic starting to push away, RSI is trending out, momentum has a red dot that wants to bring us lower, and the VWAP is maintaining bearish momentum, so I would keep an eye out. This does look like we could get a drop here. Our stochastic wants to run up. On the 4-hour, RSI wants to push forward, and the money flow wants to cross bullish with that VWAP. The VWAP's maintaining bullish strength, so if the money flow can cross through and get some strength, we could see price action move forward. However, if this VWAP meets resistance at this 8 zone like we have several times in the past, we could get a rejection here. Over on the 2-hour, stochastic starting to round away, RSI is trying to trend up, our VWAP's trying to trend up, and our money flow is trying to bounce off this neutral, so that is somewhat decent for us. Our momentum does have a bullish divergence trying to push us up as our VWAP continues higher. We do have a bit of a double bottom here that is breaking us up, trying to push us forward. So watch if we can break through this zone. If we can, then this zone right up here would be the next range for us to break. And then we could stair step our way to about the 6-3 zone. So not very large price movements, but we are moving in a decent direction. Just be wary of the larger time frame. The 1-hour has a reversal arrow, but we are trying to pump forward. We do have a bit of an ascending triangle here on the 1-hour. If you drew it to right out here, we would technically be breaking out of it. So this could be a push to the upside from here for us. But our stochastic's starting to round away. RSI is starting to round away. Momentum looks like it could start to round as our VWAP's falling. And the money flow is crossing bullish, but it's not very strong. So I would keep an eye on the next couple candles closely. If we start to pull back, we could start to fall under. Finally, for SHIB, we have about the same pattern, a flag here too. If you drew our bottom here, top here, that could end up breaking us lower. Since SHIB does not have any drawn patterns or previously discussed lower price targets, I will draw this out for any SHIB holders that may be watching real quick. I'm going to go off here because that was a break from a previous trend. I would possibly push us to the lower 6 cent zone, or whatever 6th zone you want to call it. Our stochastics overall getting bearish divergence and wants to push lower. RSI is starting to curl out, VWAP is pushing in the bearish territory, and our money flow is getting a bearish trend here. VWAP is carrying some strong bearish weight, and the momentum is pushing under, so overall the daily does not look too positive. Over on the 4-hour here, we are trying to make a bit of a bounce off the support. Stochastic's trying to ramp up. RSI is kind of flat here. It wants to push forward, but it's not really going anywhere, so I would keep an eye on it. Our VWAP and money flow want to push to the bullish side, so they're giving us some bullish strength, but if they start to taper off, I would keep an eye on it. The momentum is starting to round away, so if this money flow and VWAP start to push under, that momentum push to the upside could be short-lived. I would keep an eye on the lower time frames to determine what would happen. Over on the 2-hour, we do have a bit of an ascending triangle that could be forming here that would want to break us to the upside. Stochastic is pretty maxed out, but pushing forward. RSI wants to push forward. The money flows overall rounding out, but we did bounce off that neutral. VWAP is getting lower highs and starting to curl away, so I would keep a close eye on it. If that VWAP continues down and breaks through the neutral, we could start a continued bearish trend. Over on the 1 hour, we have a reversal arrow that wants to bring us down, so I would keep a close eye on that as we're starting to pull back. Stochastic's starting to round away, our RSI is pretty flat, and our momentum looks like it is about to start to curl away as our VWAP is starting to fall toward that bearish territory. So if that VWAP breaks bearish, that momentum's going to get a red dot that will bring it down. Our money flow does want to cross bullish, but with the VWAP starting to sell off, and money flow may not cross bullish and we may not see this pattern play out. Thank you for watching tonight's video. I hope you have a wonderful night.